so great job on your blogs. Those are fantastic. All right, our next topic in this class is going to be on RSS and podcasting. So just a little bit of a recap on what Web 2.0 is compared to 1.0. And from a business standpoint, it's allowing us to create content, share it, and disseminate information. But how much stuff is out there in the digital world on the internet and available to us is a little mind-boggling. Information overload. Today, a person is subjected to more new information in one day than a person in the Middle Ages were subjected to in their entire lifetime. Is that kind of crazy? The amount of stuff that's out there and it's new and everything's at our fingertips now. All right, RSS. We briefly hit on this last week. Have you guys seen that little symbol anywhere? Okay, so that's the RSS symbol, which stands now for Really Simple Syndication. And that little button allows for making information available to others and filtering relevant material, meaning if you write a blog on vitamin C serum and you have people out there that's the kind of content they want to receive, through this RSS feed, if they sign up for those interest points, you can push that kind of information to them. It comes straight in. They don't have to go out looking for it. And we're going to actually see a real example of this. So I asked who's seen the thing. You all kind of nodded. Anybody used it? Do any of you have an RSS reader? Okay. So originally RSS was the abbreviation for Rich Site Summary, but it was later referred to as Really Simple Syndication. So the RSS feed automates the syndication process. So there's XML tags, which is just information about the text included in the article, the title, and the metadata, when it was written, who wrote it, all that kind of thing. It's in a standardized format, and once you publish it just one time, it can be accessed by numerous different consumers. They can get it in different ways. They don't have to just go to your blog to read it. They don't have to just go to your website to read it. So here's an example of one, the CNN RSS feed, and we're going to actually look at this in just a minute, so I'll just show you the screenshot. So each story represents material that was published in a standardized format, and then different readers, RSS readers, there's different ones, can view it. So click on this. There we go there. So here are some RSS feeds that CNN has. So if you want to be aware of top stories or of health information from CNN or travel information, these are different feeds that you can add to your RSS feeder. So once we see how we get that software going, if you will, that's something that we could copy and paste into it. Another easy way is just seeing the RSS button on a website that you like, and that's going to add it to your feed. So let's go back and look at this. What would be the benefit of a business to having that RSS option available on their content? Thoughts? So you have a blog, you publish this great article about those Yeezys that are too reflective and weird. Who's reading it on your blog? How do they get to your blog or know about your blog?
Probably just like looking for shoes.
Okay.
Just like stumbled upon it, probably.
Yeah. So they literally got to your blog to read it. But if you had that RSS syndication and people were following your blog because one time they saw something cool there, but they forgot because, they just surf around and land at pages and whatever, if they subscribe to your RSS feed, they'll keep getting notified and see this new stuff come in. So to the consumer, it's good because of this whole information overload thing. Like, too much, I can't keep I can't keep a list of all these 25 favorite websites or blogs and keep going to them every day just to see if something's new. I would rather have it pushed to me and sorted by category. So here's an example of the XML file that goes along with it that talks about how this shows how it's all in a standardized format, and therefore different readers can understand it and use it for you. So they use, basically this is a lot like HTML code that we're going to use and learn in a couple of weeks. But the title, this is one item to pick from in the blog, and then the link to where it goes, and here's literally where that RSS entry is. I forget that this word is electrified. So, if you don't speak XML and can't read this, that's fine, because there's a software we can get, this RSS software reader software. So, they can be built in to your browsers, Firefox, Explorer, whatever, Google. If you have a personal homepage that you go to, maybe Yahoo is the page that pops up for you always, or Google is the page, you can have it there. Or you can go out and actually find these different readers. So how it works, we're going to actually do this in just a second. So how it works is that you find an RSS reader that you like, and you download it, or if it's an add-on to like Google, like we're going to do, it's really easy. And then if you're out and about and you see an RSS feed that you really like, you click on it and you find that URL, the address of it, and you paste it into your reader. And you do that with all the websites that you go to frequently. And then all you have to do is look at this reader, Feedly is the one that we're going to use, and all of it's going to be pushed into that one source. So you don't have to go out to the separate websites. So here are some examples. There's many. CNN I mentioned, the BBC. If you're in an area that gets hurricanes and you want to be on some hurricane watch, that's an example. But let's actually do this. So I'd like you all to launch Chrome. I want to all be working in the same thing. And go to just google.com. Once you're here, I want you to just do a Google search for RSS reader. And Feedly is the one that popped up at the top that I mentioned, and so we're going to click on that. Goodbye information overload, see how it works. Let's see, is this the one I did? Get started for free, click on that. And then you can do any of these, but you have a Google account that you created for this class, right? The Gmail, so we can say continue with Google. And then choose the one that you are, this one. Enter your password. Here we go again. And you get to something like this. So, discover best sources for any topic. So what's a topic or a website that you might be interested in? So if you're a marketing student or you're really into shoes or cars or whatever, let's type in something. I'm just going to type in marketing. And there's a bunch of different options down here. How-to articles. There's also different industries down here if we go and look, or there's skills that you might be interested in. Do you like photography? You might want to click here and find some. So if you find any of these topics that interest you, go ahead and click on them, and then ultimately you're going to click this follow button. So I'm going to back up a little. I'm going to go to the marketing option here, and I want to follow HubSpot, so I click on this follow button. And I'm going to add it to my news feed, and I'm going to give it a feed name of marketing just so it's organized, and say create. Then I'm going to say I want to look at stuff that is graphics, or graphic design. Maybe I should put graphic design. Fast Company, that's an interesting one that I like to follow. Design Milk, Modern Design, that's an interesting one. So I'm going to follow that, but I'm going to add it to my news feed in a category called, well, the suggestion is design. That's perfect. I'll add that one there. Smashing Magazine, I want to follow them, and I want to follow them in design, so I'm adding that. So you can add a bunch of these different options, and now over at the left-hand side, in the bar over here, I see, okay, Design Milk has 10 things, Smashing Magazine has 10, HubSpot has 10. I'll just go to HubSpot, and here are basically the top 10 articles that they've pushed out. So do I want to do I want to learn about 5 Facebook video stats you need to know in 2020? People shopping online, if you know this trick, here's a trick. Event invitation emails, how to create one that rocks. So do you see how this pushes information that you're interested in to you? I don't know enough to go out to all these different websites and find them, but it's pushing that content to me. All right. Everybody good? Do you see how that works? Okay. I'm going to do something else here quickly. And sign out. Sign in. I'm not seeing my little app bar like I do at home. Do you guys see a little RSS icon up at the top here anywhere? So when I did this at home, I had that little icon showing up here, and it would show me how many new articles there are. So I didn't have to go to that page, that Feedly page. I would just see the icon up here in the top right, and I would be able to I would be able to just jump to it right from there. Are you guys seeing that? Or maybe it's here? It just looks a little bit different. Verify this is you. Oh boy. I'm not seeing it the same way I did at home. Do you guys see that RSS icon at the top of your Google? Does anybody see it? Okay. I will look into that and share that with you later to see where that went. It should be almost like a shortcut up here in your Google layout, so it's easy to get to. So were you all able to set one up and add some interests and see a bunch of information? So if you follow topics on here related to your pretend business, you probably also can find some content that you might want to share. So it's not that you have to come up with original content all the time in your blog. Maybe you saw an article somewhere that was awesome and you want to share it. Kind of give a shout out to somebody else creating content, and they might do the same with you. Somebody else might say, hey, Brandon had this awesome article on his blog and then share it with you. You might do that direct on yours because you're both shoes. And then you kind of build up this mutual customer base, or you work together on promotions or something. All right, everybody got that done?
Yep.
All right. So for a while, 3-4 years ago and a few years prior to that, there's this talk that RSS is just dead. There's just no way it's going to keep going. Well, I think you've seen already that it's not dead. Google used to have their own that was embedded in it, and for some reason they did stop running it. They stopped the service, and that's when that Feedly that we just used kind of became really popular and picked up on the slack. So this is a good article. Again, this PowerPoint is in Blackboard, so you can go to it and click on this link if you want to. So, is RSS dead? How can we use it now? And what are some of the benefits? What went wrong? Let me just pop up here, social media. So how can we use RSS today? Feedly is the one that I just showed you, but there are others. Feed Wrangler, News Blur, whatever. And they show examples of each. So once you have an account set up, you can go to that Feedly page and find all of your news right there. So they certainly are good for businesses. Like I said, if people come to your website once, they kind of stumble upon it, but they choose to click your RSS button and follow you, from then on, they're going to be given your information. It's going to be pushed to them. So you don't have to rely on them just accidentally finding you again. All right. Topic 2 is podcasting. And we talked last week, you're all familiar with that term. A bunch of you said you even listen to podcasts, certain things that you like to listen to and follow. So here's the cool part about it from a small business standpoint, or a large business for that matter. It's easy. It can be very low cost. You don't have to have all this fancy equipment. And unlike radio, there's no FCC oversight or cost barriers. So you don't have to comply to all those FCC rules and regulations. You can kind of say what you want. So you can instantly connect with clients, customers, and shareholders. And these too can be syndicated, and you can push them with RSS feeds. So if you make a podcast and somebody's following that on their RSS reader, it says, hey, there's a new one, here it is. It gets pushed to you. You don't have to go out looking for it. I assume those of you that are on Apple products are familiar with iTunes and podcasts there. Also on the Samsung Galaxy platform as well. So why would a company podcast? Why not might be the better reason, but why might a company, any of your companies, think of if they were in real life, why would they say, no, we're not going to podcast? What might be some of their reasons for saying that?
It literally gives you a voice. You got a bad voice, and I guess
You have a-
podcast, but if you got a good voice and like a good thing to say, then podcast.
Okay.
I guess it could be too professional, depending on like your business or something like that.
So maybe there's some fear of like, that's too much for us. We can't get into that.
Like Burger King or something.
Okay.
Like you're not going to go listen to Burger King podcast.
Who knows? That King Whopper dude's pretty funny, or whatever he is. I'm kidding. The Burger King guy, the creepy guy with the crown that scared children recently. Okay, so maybe there's just a little bit of fear or apprehension, or they think we don't have a recording studio, we can't do that. Or, what's our message going to be? Why would we have a podcast? Why would a company podcast? Think about your own individual companies. What could you do a podcast on? What could you talk about? Like, it's kind of like a little talk show. You can have a guest and blah, blah, blah. Hey, I've got Chuck on today. Chuck, tell us what's new with the Yeezys. What's going on? Why is the NBA so mad? Can you see that being kind of cool?
Yeah.
Golf course. What could you podcast about? Steve Stricker shows up at your open house.
Yeah, we could have a show with him, like have him as a guest.
A little sit down with him. How about you're having your design firm, you're having a seminar on something where you're giving a talk for an hour. Why not record it and podcast it and let other people hear it that couldn't physically be there? You guys see where we can go with this, right? You can think of all sorts of cool things. You have somebody come in that just had a rebuild on the car, and they talk about what you did and how cool it was, and they never thought they could do it or afford it, but hey, I can at your place. What's the name of your company?
Smiles per gallon.
Smiles per Gallon. Okay. Design, decorating, furniture, interior design, tons of ideas, right? So podcasting could be pretty cool. I guess we just talked about them. Reach a specific audience with custom content. People can get away from their computer or their phone or their laptop. When do you listen to podcasts?
In the car.
In the car. Maybe when you're walking or running or whatever, mowing the lawn, I don't know. Depends how good your earphones are, I guess. But sometimes we like to get away from the computer. We don't want to sit on a website all day to watch something necessarily. So a podcast is awesome. Unregulated content, okay? No FCC oversight. That can be really helpful and can take away the fears you might have of, well, can I say that, or is that wrong? Again, downloads for listening convenience. Put it on your phone, go for a walk, drive, whatever. And people can subscribe. So you hear one you like, you subscribe to the whole series. Every time anyone comes out, it's pushed to you and you're aware of it. So that's pretty cool. And any digital audio device works. Not terribly long ago, you had to own a device, an MP3 player or an iPod. Now, I think most people are very comfortable with the idea of playing digital content on their phones and not giving it a second thought, right? It's not so scary anymore. Low cost, certainly can be. I could create one sitting right here at this desktop. There's a built-in microphone. It's not great, but I could do it. So creative ways that a business can use a podcast. Let customers tell their stories. Your car shop, how you brought in this junker and you left with this awesome thing, or my lips were so cracked they were bleeding and I wouldn't go to school or work and I was crying every day, and then I followed these tips and tricks and now I'm doing great. So letting customers tell their stories, employees can tell their stories. You can record and then rebroadcast things that happen at your company, events, speakers, maybe your annual meeting, something like that, a training session. You can create connections with high-quality guests. Have Steve Stricker at your podcast would be pretty cool. And you can also network. So interview key members of your business or industry. Find out what they think's going on or what the new trends are. So if you're going to do a podcast, you do need to prepare, right? You can't just sit down in a room and wing it unless you're really good and conversational and comfortable and at the point in your life where you can just wing it. But for the most part, you need a plan. You need to know what topics you're going to talk about, who's going to participate, how long your podcast is going to go. Are you going to have background music or sound effects? And is there kind of going to be a theme to your podcast? Do you have intro music or whatever? So plan it out and have something that's going to be familiar each time a person listens to your podcast. They know what they're in for. They know that it's going to be 15 minutes. I mean, if one goes 3 minutes and another goes 2 hours, people aren't going to really know what to expect with your podcast. So plan it out. So successful podcasts do have a theme. Maybe they highlight new products or team members. And once you have a theme, it's a lot easier to come up with a name for your podcast. So a lot of people will name it something funny or creative. It's not necessarily the name of your website. The podcast itself has a name. And if it gets really popular, you might go and buy a domain name for your podcast under that same name so that people that are familiar with, I don't know, who listens to a podcast? Anybody give me a name of one, a series? Anyone? Yes.
The Joe Rogan Show.
Yes, the Joe Rogan Show. So, perhaps, does he have a website of the same name, or is that the name of the podcast?
It's the name of the podcast.
Okay, so thejoerogenshow.com could be registered for just podcast things, if there's a website of a similar name out there. All right, so an outline of developing your podcast could be something like this. So the first thing people hear or see is the catchy jingle, and then you provide an overview of what you're going to talk about. You have topic 1, topic 2. Maybe you have a little break and cut to some music, and then your topics and closing music. Whoops. So you kind of have to plan it out. So creating a podcast, you do need hardware. You need something to record. So a computer with hard drive and storage. You need a microphone. Is it built in, or do you go and buy one? They're actually not that expensive that you plug in with a USB. You can do that as well. And then if you're really into it, are you going to get mixers and have a room that's got the sound absorbing? You don't hear everything going on in the room. Maybe you have that filter in front of it, in front of the microphone itself. To actually create them, you need software. So it has to record into something, right? What is actually catching the sound? Audacity, have you guys heard of that, or anybody use it? It's a open source free audio editor that's out there. And GarageBand, you've maybe heard of that if you have an Apple product. That's the free product that's in there, and that integrates with iTunes. So those are two simple, easy versions that exist, and of course there's higher level professional audio recording software too. So once you record it, you need to put it online so that people can get to it and then download it themselves. So you can post it to your website. Any issues or problems with that you could see? You're posting your podcast to your website only.
You might lose viewers.
Maybe less viewers, only as many as come there organically. Yep. Depending on how many you make and post, they have digital weight. They require to be stored, so you have storage issues eventually. Another thing you can do is upload them to different hosting services. So SoundCloud, Podbean, these are just examples of various versions. So those are external. They're not on your website. They don't live there. So that can be helpful. People can go to SoundCloud and find a variety of things. Yours is up there amongst other people's. So what I want you to do, actually let's take a break and we'll come back and do this. So let's just stop right here and come back by 10:15 and we will move on.